Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I'm here with a double page layout process video for you, both from a challenge over at the Counterfeit Kit challenge group, as well as the Calvinball challenge. And if you don't know what these things are, don't worry, we'll talk about it as we go. So I just looked through my story binder to figure out what story I wanted to tell, and I came upon this story. Not only is it older, but it also goes with a story I told recently. And these stories were both from a trip that I took a few years ago. So let's go ahead and take a look at that previous story. I had done this one live on my channel, and I want to use this previous layout as a sketch for moving forward to my other layout because these stories happened on the same trip, so I want to relate them visually with the design elements. So I am going to pull through my Counterfeit Kit since this is a challenge over there. And then as I was playing with these papers, I flipped this one over, which I don't usually do with my kits, and I discovered I really liked these ladies and their sunglasses, and that really related to some of the things that my brother and I did together, which is my current story, as well as this previous story about my scrapbooking friends hanging out. So I've decided I'm actually going to take some of that branding strip, which has reduced sizes of those ladies, and put them on the previous layout so that they do carry over and re-relate to the new layout. All right, as I'm choosing papers, I pick out a few things, and then I'm still, playing with my papers, and at this point I decide I just need to stick with what I have because it's working. I've got some teals and yellows to match up with the previous layout, as well as this stripy print that has some painterly elements to it, and that will come into play in a little bit. So I went ahead and set up the elements for my new layout in very much the same way as the other one, with this kind of split design, teal on the top, yellow on the bottom, a little bit of a belly band. And then things will end up being just a little bit different as we move along, because even if you're starting with a sketch or, scraplifting yourself, things can shift and change depending on the story that you're telling. So I decided to mat the main area of my collage photos with these ladies with sunglasses because my brother and I were walking Atlantic City, and it was very hot that day, and I was glad to have my sunglasses with me for sure, but I thought it played in very nice to that part of the story. All right, here's where I'm going to take some of that branding strip element and move it across to my old layout, and that's really all I'm going to do to tie those two together. Besides, the design elements are very similar, and the color scheme is very similar as well. All right, one of the challenges from the Counterfeit Kit challenge is that we are to use tags or banners or ledger, and so I'm going to get banners and tags on this layout. And I started that with that little piece I added above my title. And right now I am playing with these paint swatches that I created, and they're literally swatches of paint, and I will link you up to how I made these. I did make them at the same time I made these tags that I'm adding to my layout, and they go with the kind of painterly stripes from the other pattern paper, so I'm carrying that element over to the left side of my layout. Now with the leftover reverse side of the ladies is kind of a purpley print, and that works okay with the pattern paper stripies that I chose. So I'm going to map my photos with that to give it a little more distinction off the background. And I only had enough pattern paper to make 4x6 mats, so I had to trim my photos down a little bit to fit those. After those were in place, it was just a matter of embellishing. So I'm going to finish up my title, start embellishing my title cluster. I'm adding the word siblings to specify to future readers that this is my brother and not a partner. And then I'm making sure I got my tags on there for the Counterfeit Kit challenge, and that's a totally free group that's hosted over on Facebook. If you want to join us over there, all the links will be down below. But a lot of my embellishing is actually going to come from Calvinball, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go. When I was looking through my kit supplies to see what I wanted to embellish with, I realized that I had created this washi tape as part of the tag making process. And in fact, the tags were an afterthought when I was making the washi tape, and that's in that same video I mentioned before if you want to check that out. But this was splattered with acrylic paint products to create an altered washi tape, and I had fun with that. So I got that on there. What else am I doing? Oh, so for the Counterfeit Kit challenge, I was going to get more banners on there, and in fact I'm going to do a washi tape technique where I fold about an inch of tape back back on itself, and then I'm going to create my banners out of that with creating a little fishtail snip, and then I will lay that on my project, and I'm going to try and get a banner to go all the way across the 2-page spread so that it helps tie everything together and become cohesive. Now those banners need to dangle from something, so I took scraps of that purple paper that I matted my photos in, and here's a little tip I've learned, that if you use a sticky note on small pieces, you can tack your paper in place down to your trimmer and then trim off what you need. Here I'm trimming off very small trims, and I will glide my fingernails along that paper much like a curling ribbon to loosen the fibers, and then I can kind of twist it into a curve shape. Twist isn't really the right word, but kind of bend it into a curve shape, and I will create a few of these for different areas of my layout. Now to get my banners on there, I'm just going to start in the middle, put one on either end, and then I will kind of equal distance space them in between, and that will create my banners. With those ready, I can just add a little bit of glue to the back of everything and glue it across the distance of my 2-page spread. I will try and keep my papers aligned so that part of that banner will be divided when I trim it apart to give the 2 separate pages. Now, I didn't like how wide apart the banner pieces were, and to quickly add in more detail, I just cut some extra pennant-shaped banners out of pattern paper. And I've created other banners for other areas using the different banner types. Okay, let's talk about Calvinball. Calvinball is a totally free activity hosted over on the Scrap Happy membership group. And it's based on the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip where they play a game where the rules change all the time. So this is a scrapbooking game where the rules change all the time. So there's a current list of rules and they come and go, and you have to check the rule list on the day that you're creating a project so that you can add up the points that you're going to be getting. For example, here I've got thread tied into bows, and both a bow and a thread are worth points. So for one of those threaded bows, I get 2 points. Enamel dots are worth a point. Hearts are worth a point. Gold and stars are worth a point. So I've got gold punch stars for 2 points. Actually 3 points, because punching things is worth a point. I've got a paper clip that is silver and has an ampersand, and each of those things are worth a point. So that paper clip is worth 3 points. I set aside some ledger pieces, although I should have put them on because that was part of the challenge from the Counterfeit Kit challenge. So I could have added those on somewhere. Here I'm adding some plaid circles to make tag toppers, and the plaid is worth a point. I will add my hearts to those to get the point for the hearts. And so Calvinball is just a wild challenge where you can be inspired to add extra goodies to your layout, but you don't have to. You can build the layout how you like to build it and then see what things you use that count for points. And there are some people who play this game hard and really go in with all of the things. And I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I will make projects and just add up my points for whatever I made. And sometimes, like on this layout, I will purposefully look at the list and tuck things in. Like there's a little cat stamp in the background and a little dog stamp in the background, and both stamping, cat, and dog are worth points. So I added those into my story because I'm a cat person and my brother's a dog person. So on the inside of my head, those things make sense, but somebody reading the layout may not know, so I might need to add a few other bits of embellishment, or bits of journaling rather, to this layout to explain some of those things. But I love Calvinball. It's just a silly way to spark creativity. So again, if you want to know more about Calvinball or the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, I will leave you links down below so you can check out these totally free groups and come have fun with us. It's just good fun. So I did get a lot of things tucked into this layout. Would you do that? Is it hard for you to use items that don't make any sense to the story? Can you find ways to tie them in just a little bit? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this whole process, and if you play along with Calvinball or the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, I'd love to know that too. I will be back soon with more crafty videos for you. Until then, have an artful day.